Hey, it's Monster, one half of your dynamic hosting duo of the Nerdy Man Room Show. Proudly bringing you another Man Room Short. Enjoy, and as always, please remember, viewer discretion is advised.
And that was a way. And then when going to the Tales from the Dark Multiverse, that was a way for them to kind of take the stuff that was prominent and give it an Elseworlds vibe to see if Elseworlds was worth reviving today. That was their test market for a new generation of Elseworlds.
And it's kind of interesting you say that because, you look back at What If as well. I mean, there was like 13 volumes of What If, and some of them were full volumes of, multiple issues up to hundreds or whatever, or how far they went. I think the first one was like in the 50s or 60s, but then you get to the current What If stuff, and they just take basically your Avengers versus X-Men, for instance. That was your summer crossover. So then they do 5 issues of, what would happen if this happened in Avengers versus X-Men? It's like, it's not the full What If that I expect anymore.
Exactly.
And same thing with Elseworlds. I'm not getting a bunch of stuff that's different in there anymore either. If they're even still doing it.
Well, in all fairness, with the original What Ifs that were, during the late '80s to the mid '90s, that I remember them. Monster, our area here, we didn't have comic shops anywhere near. Like, you had to drive at least 30 minutes to a comic store. So when we were younger, you either drove the 30 minutes to a comic store, or you went to your local grocery store or convenience store who just happened to have the newsstand there that, sold various magazines, and they would have like just buttloads of comic books that you would thumb through and be at the mercy of what they had.
But you couldn't get it from issue to issue. And the only store you could get it in was Winn-Dixie, to be honest. They were the only ones that had the newsstand in Fitzgerald at that time.
Piggly Wiggly also had a good variety, actually.
Then also, depending on who their magazine provider was, they were biased towards either Marvel or DC in the area that they were in, because they were very territorial. When you bought magazines, you could only get really the DC side or the Marvel side. Very few of them had two, unless it was a guy who owned 2 shops across town. He'd get one magazine from one distributor, one magazine from the other distributor. So he'd have Marvel and DC have to split the shipments between the 2 stores.
And the convenience store that was within striking distance of my home that I used to walk to as a young child and they were primarily Marvel. You might see Batman or Superman on their shelf just because, but I just remember the covers is what always captivated me. Like you could go through and thumb, and the What If covers always look so great. Now you might look in the inside, and the interior art match nothing like the cover art. But they can sell you that on that $1.25 issue, with that cover art alone, and you like, this is pretty cool, to where I was definitely gonna get my Spider-Man each week. When I went in there, I would occasionally just grab various ones. It was, just whatever looked cool.
And then occasionally you would think about the cover, and the tagline alone was enough to go, "Hey, I thought about that. I wonder what their take on it was." That was the real cheese. Was, you look over your shoulder. How do they know what I was thinking? Get
the fans' wheels rolling on their heads.
Yeah, but before we go any further, I got to go back and address something Hassel said. He said when we were younger, we used to have to drive 30 minutes to get to the comic book store. That ain't changed for you, dude.
It has not.
There's still nothing in Fitzgerald. You still got to drive to Tifton to see Kev.
Well, poor Kev, he tried to help us out and enlighten our nefarious town here, but they had to pay the crime syndicate to grow this overgrown, the world's largest chicken statue we have. So we lost out on a true treasure.
Yeah, it was sad, but we had a hell of a good run when we were Stargrave, that's for sure.